I would like to begin by setting out what I'd like to do and what I'm not going to do. This is largely a historical class, so I propose to follow the origins and structure of the Eucharist, beginning with its very origin at the Last Supper, and then taking you to some of the most important stages in its historical development and formation, really. So my emphasis is on the historical side of the Eucharist. This is not a systematic lecture. Some aspects of sacramental theology will, of course, come in. But I propose to trace some of the most important moments in the history of the Blessed Sacrament, the most august sacrament which Christ has given us. I consider such a discussion important because Christianity is a profoundly historical religion. We believe God acts in history, acted in the history of his chosen people, Israel, which then culminated in the life of Jesus Christ. And in the incarnation of the Son of God, God has come close to us so that we may draw close to him. And this work of salvation unfolds precisely in the history of a people, the people of Israel, and these historical events and historical circumstances are important for us. So, in a general sense, we are really bound to the historical origins of Christianity in that part of the Roman Empire in the Eastern Mediterranean, which is known to us as Palestine or Israel. Hence, I propose to follow a historical course. I will focus on certain periods which I have chosen because of their importance for our understanding of the Eucharist. The periods in between would certainly also merit a discussion, but it's not something I could do within the space of about 5 hours. And I'd like to begin with the Last Supper. So this first lecture is dedicated to the Last Supper, in a way that would seem an obvious choice for us. The historical connection and continuity of the Christian Eucharist with the Last Supper is essential. Otherwise, the Church's liturgical celebration would be, in the words of Joseph Ratzinger, Benedict XVI, I quote, "a pious fiction and not a reality at the foundation of communion with God and among men." These are the words of Benedict XVI. However, when you look at recent scholarship on the origins of the Eucharist, you find that precisely these roots, these foundations, have been subjected to radical questioning. I propose to approach this complex debate from an interdisciplinary perspective and bring into our conversation New Testament exegesis, church history, and liturgical studies. My aim is really to reassess the central importance of the Last Supper tradition for shaping the early Christian Eucharist. This will include a discussion of the date and character of the Last Supper, of the words of institution, and of their possible earliest liturgical use. So first, the quest for the origins of the Eucharist. A traditional account of the history of the Eucharist would begin with a discussion of the Last Supper and its formative impact on earliest liturgical tradition. Thus, the eminent Austrian liturgical scholar Joseph Andreas Jungmann writes in his classical work on the history of the Roman rite of Mass, with confidence, the first Holy Mass was said on the same night in which he was betrayed. That's a quotation from 1 Corinthians 11:23. So it would seem that the foundational and formative role of the Last Supper tradition and the gospel narratives of institution of the Eucharist cannot be doubted.